Hey everyone, this is Ragachak with MMOHuts, and today we're going to be talking about Elder Scrolls Online. And one of the big things that I've been hearing about lately is how Tamriel is going to be opening up to players who maybe aren't scaled high enough to get into content, or they wanted to see a different zone. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So with One Tamriel, the goal is to make it as accessible as possible. So we've removed kind of those arbitrary level gates, where the game is telling you have to be this level in order to go to the zone. All of that is gone now. So you can just kind of pick a direction and go and play any way you want to play. If you don't want to participate in your story, or you don't necessarily love the zone story, you can go try another zone.
Or if one of your friends started playing again and say, hey, why don't you come over here into the desert and play with me?
Yeah, that's a big one as well. It's a lot more social now. Like you said, if you're a returning player and maybe you're not a high enough level, or you're playing with your spouse, right? The way I play is kind of hardcore, grind it out, get to the max level as fast as I can. And my wife plays a little differently. She likes to loot every harvest node, read every book, those kinds of things. So I always had to have an alt when I was playing with her, and I only played it at that time. And now I can just play with her on my main character that I want to play with.
Because that was one of the big problems I had when I started covering Elder Scrolls. Is I started doing DLC and I had a fresh account. Like, my account's old, but I never really had time to get into it. And I thought, oh God, what am I going to do? Now I have to cover DLC. What do I do? But thankfully it scaled me up to the content, and I was able to explore all the DLC I covered with ease. Right. And my friends, like a lot of my friends who play the game, they're all like really high level, and I was level 10. So it's like, bye guys.
Yep. Well, now you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love it.
Right. So, in addition to that, we're removing the alliance restrictions. So right now, each alliance kind of can only play with their own alliance unless you're in a dungeon. And that didn't feel as good, because we support cross-alliance grouping in dungeons and trials and in guilds, so you can have multiple alliances in your guild. So now, with One Tamriel, your alliance is just your PvP team. So you can play with all those other players in the overland zones.
But then when it's time to PvP, you only roll with your alliance. Okay, yep. I like that, because a lot of my friends, again, play a lot of really different. Like, a lot of my friends, they might want to be a dwarf, or they want to be Nord, but I mostly play Dark Elves. Okay. That's my go-to race. Yeah. And all my friends are all in other alliances and factions, and I can't play with them, and now I'll be able to, and that's fantastic. And another thing I know we wanted to talk about is the Gold Edition, because that's on its way out.
Yep.
All platforms?
Yep.
Fantastic. Is there anything else coming around the Gold Edition or around One Tamriel that you feel like our audience ought to know about?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a few things.
Okay.
We just had a panel earlier on this morning to talk about dueling. And dueling is a new thing, a new feature we've added in to kind of help players work on their builds and work on their gearing in preparation for Cyrodiil. We've also redesigned how Craglorn works.
Okay.
Craglorn was a zone that when we launched it was geared more towards the hardcore and groups. And we've gone back and restructured the zone so that the critical path, the storyline through the zone, can now be soloed. And then all of the hard grouping gates that we had in a lot of puzzles and in some of the dungeons, we relaxed those so that a solo player could do them, and also tune them so that they're more geared around duos, so you and a partner to go through, just to make the zone a little bit more accessible and allow those players that didn't necessarily get a chance to see the storyline.
So they don't feel left out.
They can participate in it now, yeah.
Well, that's good for me, because I find I solo more than anything. I don't have time to wait for other people.
Yep.
I've got to get going. I've got to get going now, and now I can check out the content too.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Is there anything else? Anything else you want to reveal to our audience?
Itemization has seen a huge change with it. We changed our philosophy for itemization, whereas before One Tamriel, it was more the player just hoped they got a drop. And now we're changing it so that you're chasing the perfect weight and the perfect trait in the item, so you're always going to get an item set drop.
Okay.
And we kind of follow the dungeon mentality where every zone now in the game is going to have 3 unique sets that can drop. You can either get that via questing, or by exploring delves and killing things there, looting treasure chests, group activities, things like that. And they're going to scale to your level. So if you kill them at level 10, you'll get a level 10 set piece. If you kill them at level 40, you'll get a level 40 set piece. So you're always going to know where to go in order to get the set piece you want. So that's a big thing, and that was a huge undertaking by our systems team to kind of change itemization. We had to create, I think it was 30 new item sets to support this, as well as kind of change how the dungeons worked, and we added in a bunch of new monster masks for dungeons as well. So it's a huge undertaking for the team.
Awesome, sounds good. Well, I think that's about all we have time for today. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us.
Sure thing.
There's a lot coming to Elder Scrolls Online. You guys definitely want to stay tuned to MMOHuts.com for all the latest.